Carmen Lilith, aka the Yoga Witch. So for today's episode, this is not going to be a regular episode. I figured it was about time that I introduced myself as well as the pod and why I've started it. And I want to give you a fair warning. I have not prepared any notes, any bullet points, anything for this video. Because truthfully, I just want it to feel as natural and authentic as possible, and I don't want to have to be reading a list about who I am because I know who I am and am excited to share that with you. I am originally from a small town just north of Nashville, and I still reside in the Nashville area. I have a 200-hour Hatha Vinyasa certification from Yoga Farm Ithaca, as well as somewhere between 60 and 100 continuing education credit hours between like specialized trainings and studio trainings and all of that. And I also have an Ayurvedic nutrition certification from my vinyasa practice. I started getting into the woo. I mean, pretty young. I grew up like obsessed with like playing potions and definitely like got a lot of my friends in middle school to do seances with me at sleepovers. I was definitely that weird kid at school, but love that for me. I've always been like really fascinated by just things that aren't of this earthly world, although I am a Taurus, so I also do really love earthly pleasures such as like nice clothes, makeup, good food. I love a soft blanket. I love this Juliet Free People duster. It is literally like the favorite item I have in my closet. So although I am obsessed with things that are not of this world, I also am really enjoying and divulging in this human experience, and I'm a firm believer in the fact that both can be true at the same time. My personal philosophy is I feel like a lot of times in the spiritual community, people get too hung up on what a spiritual person should look like or what they should do. And one of my big missions in sharing my practice and sharing kind of a bit into my life as well is I want other creators and other facilitators and other teachers to feel like we don't have to put on this mask or this persona of, oh, I'm this wise teacher and I meditate for an hour every single day. Like, if I'm being honest, like, I try to do my Kundalini every morning. I don't always do it. I try to journal as much as possible. I forget often. I don't always eat Ayurvedically combined foods. I drink iced coffee every single day. I have a toddler, so like I am oftentimes flying by the seat of my pants and I don't have my shit together. And I think that more facilitators need to feel comfortable with being authentic in that because we're all human and none of us have our shit together. I am also neurodivergent, so I talk fast, I think fast. I hope you can keep up with me. But with that neurodivergence comes a very special skill of being able to really lock into topics that interest me and really get down to the nitty-gritty of all of the information. And so some of my videos you'll notice will be very factual, be very historical, whereas others will be very just like flow, very like how this feels right now. Like, I want this podcast to feel like you're having a FaceTime call with a friend, or you're listening to an audio message from a friend, right? And you'll notice in some of my earlier videos and some of my earlier episodes, I was a bit more structured and a bit more reserved and a bit more scripted while I was getting comfortable with being visible on camera and learning how to use my voice when being filmed and when sharing in the broad space of the internet. I feel like each episode has gotten less and less scripted, and that's how I want it to be. I genuinely just want it to feel like we are having a conversation. And with that, that means that I absolutely love when people share their thoughts in the comments. And I'm not even just saying that for like engagement or for algorithm. Like, I genuinely, one of my biggest purposes of this podcast is to build a community. I think that there's no point in me just talking at you. I want to bring you guys into the conversation with me and be able to discuss your thoughts, answer any questions you may have, maybe see other perspectives, because I believe that there's a bit of truth to every perspective, as long as it's not a hateful one. So be nice to me and to others and to yourself, okay? There's no need to be mean. Some of my hobbies outside of witchcraft and yoga include fiber arts. I'm really into fiber arts. I love to crochet, knit, sew, embroider, and I also love just collecting hobbies. Like, I always say my favorite hobby is collecting hobbies. I just love to learn, and that is truly like my favorite thing, and like my purpose on this planet is to learn and then share what I learn. And so there's very few times you'll see me not being in some sort of educational program. I just finished up my Ayurvedic nutrition certification about 2 months ago, and now I am in the process of saving up for my next certification, which I'm kind of still wondering which one I'm going to do, but it is between Kundalini to finish off my 500-hour yoga teacher training, or I've also been thinking about doing a introductory astrology certification, because I am obsessed with astrology, as you can probably tell from my monthly full moon episodes. Those are some of my favorite episodes to do. But I also love to vision board, I love to paint, to collage. I also am a digital artist. I draw a lot, both on paper and on my tablet. And I'm also in the process of just like getting comfortable being bad at creating, or not even like being bad, but like not getting hung up on being good at it and creating just because I want to create. And that has been a big journey for me recently, and I've honestly been loving just like allowing myself to experiment with techniques that I've never tried and experiment with mediums I've never tried. I also, for anyone wondering, I am a Taurus Sun, Virgo Moon, Leo Rising. And I'm not going to give you my whole chart because that would take too long, but if you wanted to know my big three, that is my big three. Now, to get into the podcast, now that you've met me, it is so nice to meet you, and I would love to talk to you guys. If you wanted to DM me or comment or head over to the Patreon, whatever floats your boat, whatever suits you. I just love getting to talk to people. So, about the podcast. It is called The Yoga Witch, but I want to make it abundantly clear that yoga and witchcraft are not synonymous. They are two separate structures, two separate philosophies in some ways, and I don't want people to get confused and think that I'm saying that yoga is witchcraft or everyone who's a witch has to do yoga. The reason that I have named this podcast The Yoga Witch Podcast is because for me, as a Ayurvedic yoga teacher and also a actively practicing witch, I really enjoy blending these two things, these two spiritual practices that mean so much to me, and allowing them to merge in my personal practice. And I never want to be just a yoga teacher or like just a yoga practitioner versus just a witch. Like, I am both, and I want to express that, and I want to share that because those are two of, outside of like art and creating, which if you think about it, yoga and witchcraft are also both arts. But outside of like visual art and music and everything, yoga and witchcraft are like two of the most important parts of my personal life, as well as motherhood, which for those who don't know, I also do have a toddler. So the Yoga Witch Podcast is not just a yoga podcast, not just a witchcraft podcast. It is a podcast about everything in between, as well as just like finding magic within your daily life, as well as staying curious. In my yoga teacher training, we did a soul vow meditation, which is where you go through this visualization and you are presented with a soul vow. And your soul vow is basically the vow that your soul makes before incarnating on this planet. And so for me, my soul vow, my golden word, was curiosity. And the phrase that came from that was born from that, is curiosity is the first spark towards higher consciousness. So my goal and my purpose for this podcast is to inspire curiosity in people, as well as satiate that curiosity, because I am also a very curious person. Like I said, I always want to be learning and I always want to be sharing what I learn. And so we will talk about stuff such as like the witch wound, we will talk about ritual, we'll talk about asana, we'll talk about the yamas and the niyamas, because also I am not one of those yoga teachers who treats yoga like fitness. Let me get that so clear. Yoga is way more than moving your body, although movement is a big part of the yoga practice. It is just one of the 8 limbs of yoga, and the many aspects within those 8 limbs. So I want you to also know I will be working on creating things not just for the chakras, but also for the yamas and the niyamas and the different paths of yoga. And I do intend on having a good flow between like yoga and witchcraft, and also like history and theology, because those are also some of my really big special interests that I feel like tie into a lot of these things, with a healthy sprinkle of feminism as well. Because I fully believe that yoga is social justice, and if you are not actively advocating for social justice and human rights, you are not practicing yoga, because yoga believes in unity, and when one suffers, we all suffer. So until everyone is free and everyone is liberated of their suffering, we will not be able to raise the collective consciousness to the level that I dream that in my lifetime we get to see, and if not, in my daughter's lifetime. Another goal of this podcast is to just inspire authenticity and break down some of the stigmatizations of witchcraft and of yoga, because I feel like there's a lot of really false narratives, as well as a lot of pressures that are put on to both students and teachers of yoga to be this perfect, like every meal has to be clean, and every day you have to do this rigorous set of movements and these breathwork practices and these meditations. And the whole reason that we have this human experience is to experience what it is to be human, because humans have such complex emotions and such complex thoughts and ways of being. And there's so much that this physical material world has to offer us and has to show us and has to teach us. I think that it would be so silly of us to not participate in that. So if you've seen like my Instagram bio, I have in there like hedonist, mystic, fae, poet, siren, in that order. And that's because like truly, like I believe that pleasure is a form of spirituality. And I believe when you indulge in the things that make life feel rich, I don't think that that's egotistical. I think that that's enjoying this human experience while we have it. Now, that being said, I love making Ayurvedically combined meals for my dosha or for my husband's or my daughter's doshas. And I love making nutrient-dense foods because I'm also chronically ill. I have endometriosis and POTS. So nutrition is really important to me. That being said, I am literally snacking on a flourless chocolate torte over here. You know what I mean? Like you can do both. And so duality is also a really important theme that I want to explore in this podcast. I also want you to know that any episode on things that gets into history or theology, or science, because I also believe that a lot of times spirituality is just science that has yet to be proven, and a lot of times we actually do, like nowadays, like I feel like every single day we're finding new scientific discoveries that prove like ancient practices, and I'm like, wow, it's almost like we've been saying this for centuries, and the modern capitalistic world is just choosing not to listen to it because it's not profitable. And so any episode where I'm talking about science or I'm talking about history, I thoroughly research, because I love listening to people who thoroughly research, because I love to know the facts and be able to form my thoughts from those facts. And yes, I'll deliver the facts and I'll also express kind of like my perspective on it. But I want to be clear that I am not in the business of proving. I am in the business of teaching. I am in the business of offering information and allowing you to make what you want to make of it. That being said, if at any time like I'm doing a meditation or a breathwork practice that you see, or if we're in an episode and I'm like, all right, let's pause and take a breath, or anything, like if there's ever a practice that I initiate in a podcast episode or a YouTube video or an Instagram reel or whatnot, I want you to do what feels safe in your body and what feels aligned in your body. If there's ever a practice that I offer that you're like, I don't know about that, or a belief or an opinion or a perspective that I offer that you're like, I don't know about that, always, always, always listen to your own intuition, listen to your own body. You know yourself better than anyone else. I am just a person on the internet. And while I love to offer as much information as I can and as much guidance as I can, at the end of the day, it is ultimately up to you how you choose to form perspectives and practices and beliefs. So please, anything I offer, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. I also wanted to put out there that I would love to at some point start bringing on guests to the podcast, whether that be like physically in person or through Zoom. So if you're watching this and you're a yoga teacher, or you're another podcaster, or you're a witch, or you have, or a theologist, I would love to talk to you, especially if you're a theologist, because I'm really into theology and seeing how different religions and practices intersect, and I would just love to talk to a theologist on the podcast. I feel like that'd be so wonderful and so great. But if you have any kind of specialty that you think would maybe be aligned with the podcast, please, 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 please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to get into contact with you and talk about potentially working together on a podcast episode or some other form of collaboration, even if you'd want to. I also, in this introduction video, just want to ask, please have patience with me as I figure out this whole podcasting thing. I have never had a podcast before. I have taught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yoga classes and workshops, but in those yoga classes and workshops, I am in a physical space with physical people that I can see and that can respond and that I can feel the energy of, and there's just a very different approach when it comes to working in person with someone versus, and especially working in person with a small group of people or even an individual person, versus creating for the masses. And so I am learning how to navigate sharing what I think needs to be shared in a way that is authentic and aligned, but that means that it might not align with you. And it may also take me some time to figure out exactly like what my flow of episodes is going to look like. Like I know right now I'm doing a week of chakras, a week of a regular episode, or this week it's this episode, and then another week of chakras, and then the full moon episode. But I'm thinking after that I might switch out the chakras episodes with either like the yamas or the niyamas, or maybe like the 8 limbs of yoga. So I'm still figuring out the flow. So please bear with me and have patience. But thank you guys so much for joining me today, and I'm so honored to have you as part of this podcast. Please feel free to reach out, talk, whether it's DM or comments or wherever you would like to reach out. I have all of my links in the description box below. And I would also love to see you in the Patreon community where we have the Primordial Portal. Every month I upload a full moon meditation there, as well as like a journaling practice. And then we also have weekly discussions on there. And then I have the Ceremonial Circle where I also offer weekly embodiment practices and additional full moon rituals as well. And whenever you sign up for that ceremonial circle, instead of having to pay $65 for an Ayurvedic dosha assessment, you sign up for the ceremonial circle for $33, and after 2 months I give you a dosha assessment through that. So you kind of get more from that than you would from just a dosha assessment. But again, thank you guys so much for listening today, dreaming out loud.